Well, it is now time for weather with Nebraska Extension Ag climatologist and Market Journal's chief meteorologist Al Dutcher. Well, Al, it was a mild start of the week here in eastern Nebraska, but the heat kicked in. How are things looking as we turn to the week ahead?
Well, Bryce, we definitely seen that cool down earlier in the week, and then, of course, the rapid warm up before we started to see some of that monsoonal moisture making it up way up through the central Rockies, and then eventually moving in and interacting with the frontal boundary that just basically is sitting right over top of us or just to the south of us. You know, during this last week with this drier air that came in after this cold air, of course, we've seen the rapid warm up and the high winds, and it's caused a lot of issues in terms of water use. And of course, the concern is now that we have been going through this pattern of warm temperatures with occasional precipitation and no widespread significant moisture events statewide, some of the areas in the state are now starting to see the impacts of that lack of moisture, and this is a critical time where we're going to need to see moisture in order to escape some of the heat that is coming back and forth here on a regular basis. And in fact, it's re-showing that heat will start to emerge as we get into the later part of next week and the following week. So this is a critical time for that moisture. There are a few opportunities for it. Unfortunately, no widespread moisture at this point in time. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it looks like to be more of these afternoon convection to evening convection events, and depending on where you are in the state, you may or may not get lucky with this moisture. So if we look at the upper air models, the first thing we'll draw your attention to is that big trough to the western United States, moving up over top of the ridge, which has been flattened down somewhat, and that's leading to like a zonal to northwesterly flow into our region, and the systems will piece of energy will move around that periphery of that ridge and develop moisture. So we do have low pressure sitting up in southwestern South Dakota, some residual moisture shifting to the east, and some renewed moisture that's likely to develop in the western part of the state with another trough coming through as we go into tomorrow. That will start to push toward the east. So we show at the surface low pressure over the northwestern portions of Kansas. That will help to draw some moisture up and then bring that monsoonal moisture around. So it looks like most of the better precipitation will be across the northern half of the state and then sliding toward the southeast during the overnight hours. On Monday, the ridge starts to build up just a little bit. We still have another piece of energy sitting over northwestern portions of Kansas that will continue to keep that moisture feed into our region. And we see some decent convection that'll break out across the northern half of the state, possibly sliding into southeast. On Tuesday, another wave moves its way through. So right now, that low pressure in southwest Kansas, we may actually see that precipitation band shifting a little bit farther toward the south. And if that's the case, we'll see these thunderstorms once again fire in the west, rapidly move over toward the east. And then as we get into Wednesday, we start to see that ridge starting to build back up, so the heat returns. Low pressure starts to develop over portions of the Texas Panhandle, and that will again generate some scattered thunderstorm activity. Some of that's depicted across southeast Nebraska and across northern Nebraska. And as we go into the day on Thursday, now the ridge starts to build to our west in the Intermountain region, starts to bring a northwest flow to the northern plains, so we may see a little bit cooler conditions across eastern Nebraska, but much more warmth in western Nebraska, pushing well into the 90s. We'll be watching for this northwest flow to see if these systems are moving out of north central Nebraska into southeast Nebraska. And then on Friday, this ridge builds way up into the northern Rockies, starts to push that cooler air to the Great Lakes. And we're probably going to see temperatures rebounding back up into the 90s to the mid 90s across the east, and potentially even pushing the 100-degree mark, with a chance once again for some thunderstorm activity developing in northwest Nebraska and moving toward the southeast. As we look to the 8 to 14-day forecast, with that ridge coming into play in the western United States, of course, above normal moisture or more temperatures is expected from Thursday to the following Tuesday. And in terms of precipitation, we start to shift that precipitation to the east, and a drier trend starts to establish itself over the western United States.